Hello, everyone. Oh, I just want to make sure I'm recording and I'm live in the group. Hello and welcome, everyone. So this is a pop-up training. Now I'm in Zoom so that I have this recorded and I can share it. Now, if you are watching in the group, I will periodically, not always great at multitasking, but I will periodically have a look at the messages and comments that you're making. Maybe I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. So this is a pop-up training about comparison-itis on social media and what to do about it. And so I would love to, in the comments, if you're watching live, let me know if this is something that you experience yourself. So this has been a big piece for me, and this is a channeled transmission, so maybe between 20 and 30 minutes we'll just see what comes through. I made myself some notes so I can make sure that I give you some of the pieces that I want to land about this, and really with the intention that you can maybe have a perception shift around the comparison that shows up, perception shift, and allow you to show up, authentically and have an expansive experience with social media. And so if you're watching live or you're catching the replay, let me know if this is something that you experience, sometimes or often, and what do you currently do to support yourself with this pattern that shows up. And so what I have come to realize, so many of the clients that I work with have this experience of comparison-itis being a real obstacle in sharing their message and being able to impact the humanity in the way that they feel called to. So we have this amazing platform of social media. Now, I'm an 80s child, and I remember in Australia the thick yellow pages book, where if you wanted to find a service, you would, look through the big thick book and go alphabetically down the track and find the services who could afford to advertise in the yellow pages. And then and then of course there was television advertising and magazine advertising and radio advertising, which some of those, we have now, but we have this absolutely incredible resource of social media. Now, there are many potholes and challenges with social media. So I know it's not all rainbows and butterflies. I have watched the documentaries on it, and I know the intentions behind getting us hooked into it so that we continue to use it and hijacks our thinking. But if we recognize and remember that we are sovereign beings, that we have dominion over ourselves, that we can self-govern when we dismantle, dissolve, detach from the strings of attachment, detach the strings of attachment from the matrix, and where we are eyes wide open about what it is that's going on, and that we have a healthy relationship, with ourselves and with social media. So that's the premise that I'm sharing this. And so to do that, there are lots of ways to have this healthy relationship with yourself and with social media. There are lots of things that we can do, and that's a separate training. But in this specific pop-up, we're going to be talking about the pattern of comparison that shows up in social media. So we open up social media and we see our feed, and then we have all kinds of stories that come up for us, and all kinds of patterns and discomfort that show up when we start to engage with social media. And now these things, what the first question I ask is, are these patterns that show up for you when you're not using social media? So do they show up? Does this pattern show up for you when you go to a sister circle? Does this pattern show up for you when you go to dinner with people, when you are out for a walk, when you go to the gym? Is this a pattern that shows up everywhere? Most of the time, the stories, the patterns, the self-judgment, the inner critic that shows up with social media is similar, is the same. It happens in all aspects of our life. It is amplified with social media because of the nature. So if we look at the nature of social media, so it's a concentrated platform that has people show their best self. So we're really only getting to see they're putting their best foot forward. We're not actually seeing what is, all the other aspects. And we know that people can actually, that they can fake it. Now, the thing is that we're going through this still continuously, but we've just gone through this massive lifting of the veil, this unveiling, as we went through the whole last 4 years. And now many more people can see beyond that, the fake energy. They can see beyond, feel, sense, know beyond that fake energy. So there's a situation now, the circumstances now, that there are still people doing the fake thing and using the tactics and using manipulation and using the old paradigm, but we can sense, know, feel, see what that is. And so there's been a lifting of the veil and a clearing of that energy. So that's that piece. Then the next piece is that whatever the story is that comes up for you when the comparison comes up. So if you open social media and then there's a particular person or group of people that you feel triggered by, that you feel the comparison kick in, there will be an undercurrent, an underlying story for you to uncover for yourself, for your own liberation. So there are many stories and many viewpoints about comparison, that comparison is the thief of joy, and that our experience of comparison is just to remind ourselves that, to stay in our own lane, and all of these kind of soothing, coaching, kind of mindy things that we can tell ourselves doesn't really shift what's the undercurrent of what's really going on deep down. So what comparison on social media is giving you the gift of recognizing where there needs to be more love, more light within you for yourself. It highlights a story, a pattern, a conditioning, a limiting belief, an upper limit that is there for you to be with and love on and potentially alchemize. And so if I have a look in the comments, if anyone's watching, I'll turn the volume down. Hi Alyssa, hi Alrak. At times I compare myself in terms of, if others can do something, I can too. I used to judge myself thinking that I had to be perfect. I'm learning that I don't expect this of others, and that's helping me go easier on myself. Hi, Heidi. Nailed it. Nailed it. Yes, one of the biggest shifting points for me with comparison was, if they are doing it, they are paving the way. They are showing me what's possible. And so I know it's possible for me. And I can soften the expectations and the self-judgment. And just like you've said, Ulrich, I agree. And that's an experience that I've had for myself. And the other piece can be that it can continue to show up in a way that it can transform into other ways and show up in other ways. So what I mean by that is that where, say, we see somebody showing up online consistently, so the trigger is that they are appearing to be really consistent with their business. They're really consistent with their messaging. They seem like they really have it together, and they're really happy, and they're successful, and they're going really well, and they seem to be getting results. And so the comparison that can come up is that, I start to look at that person, and every time I open social media and I go to do, show up for myself, I get distracted by, what everyone else is doing. And then I start the internal dialogue of, I'm triggered by, she's always showing up, she's always there, she seems to be really nailing it and, really winning at life, and she's presenting in a certain way that it actually has me feeling like, can I really compete with that? Is the stories that might come up are, is if somebody can choose to go with her for coaching or leadership, why would she choose me? And so then the spiral can start from that point, is where it's a slow chipping away that happens as a result of something that we've recognized as like a discomfort or a stretch or a trigger, and then we haven't necessarily really given it the airtime, the space, and really sat with it to see what the root of it is. Because there are 30,000 or 60,000 thoughts going through our mind in a day, or I can't even remember the time frame, is an enormous amount of flow that happens. And there is a lot of dialogue that we can do from a mind perspective, that we can support ourselves to move through at a mind level and coach ourselves to soothe our mind, to remind ourselves to stay in our own lane, and we're great, and there's plenty to go around, and all of that. Sometimes the root of what is there, of that comparison piece that's coming up, is there to be unraveled. It's there to be dug out. And what I've found is that the very core of this experience in this lifetime of being a woman is that, and in the society that we've been living in, and the messaging that our generations before us have carried through as well, is that we're in this experience to compete with others, and we've been turned against each other. Women have been turned against each other and not being able to trust each other. And so we are having this experience in this lifetime of, and I use this all often, dismantling, dissolving, and releasing ourselves, unhooking ourselves from all of these stories and conditioning and patterns and templates and the software that's been running the show. And that we get to really allow ourselves to trust ourselves and trust other women. And in doing that, we then bring ourselves closer to other women, to invite more intimacy and connection and meaningful relationships in that experience. And in that experience, we are often have to journey through any thoughts, beliefs, conditioning that is not in alignment with that level of connection and intimacy and trust with each other. And so that can look like we have people show up, we have people in our circles or even not in our circles that show up on social media that highlight to us any of those patterns within us that are not in alignment with our highest timeline of oneness with all. And so the piece that I wanted to land about comparison is, yes, we can do the self-soothing talking, and it's also an invitation to see what it is at the very root, at the very core for you. And so for the biggest one for me, and I'll share vulnerably, which is a commitment that I've made, to my community and to myself in the last kind of 6 to 8 weeks, is that, so the thing for me was that the core story was nothing I ever do is good enough. And so the thing for me was I could see what other people were doing and I could see that it was possible for them, but it didn't translate to me. And what I became aware of was that, yes, that other beautiful soul is doing and experiencing what I desire to experience, but it is not possible for me. This was the story. It is not possible for me because nothing I ever do is good enough. I can try and do all those things, but it won't turn out the same way. So that is why for many years, for me, the story, the comparison piece, I was doing all the things that I was told to do at a surface level to support myself, stay in your own lane, really recognize the 30 reasons why someone would want to work with you and all of the things. I was doing all of the mindset stuff and it was not working for me. And that's because the core belief was still there hiding, and it wasn't easy for me to get to. But what I was invited to do through mentorship, through working with somebody who acknowledges that this journey is an experience of uncovering all of these pieces that we've fragmented ourselves and we've detached and we've closed off parts of ourselves, bring them all back, invite them all back around the round table, give all of them airtime, see who wants to say what, and make space for it all. And then you're able to really, it's lifting all the veils between all aspects of ourselves, bringing it all back, inviting it all to be there. And that some days I still feel like nothing I ever do is good enough. But I have given myself the space for that shame, for that pain, for that shadow to be present. So it now no longer is the undercurrent that runs the show. As soon as I have the little pattern come up and I notice it, I just embrace it and I give it space and I allow that to bubble up and show me what is there for me to see, what is there for me to feel, what is there for me to witness about myself. And so the piece, the core belief, going back to the core belief, and yes, so the invitation is that we want to recognize that there are at some level between the ages of maybe even before conception, but let's use this lifetime as an example here, 0 to 7, there has been an experience where there was some level of unmet emotional needs from that period of time that has translated to thoughts that have become beliefs that are kind of sitting underneath the tip of the iceberg. And we get to look at these pieces, and comparison, being with other women and showing up for ourselves, and the social media platform is the amplification tool. It is the amplification tool to support you to know yourself more deeply. And as I journey through this experience of knowing myself more deeply, then it is now my experience is that when I open social media and I see what's possible, I see other women doing what is possible, doing what I desire, is that it is a real sensation of that is now a possibility for me. I have done the work and acknowledge those shadow parts of me and embrace those shadow parts of me, that now I know that it is possible. And it brings me closer to a sense of oneness, and that closer into my community, and that I can have a deeper relationship with those people, and that we know that part of this journey, part of women coming together is collaboration, is community. And if I'm like struggling and fighting and hiding that shadow part of me, I'm unable to show up in those places and be in collaboration and be in community with others, because it's a repellent kind of energy. And so that's that piece. Let me just look at my notes. So then here is the invitation, is that we see social media as an incredible platform that gives us an opportunity to connect us to our oneness. It gives us an opportunity to connect us to communities that I have met through online, through social media, some of the very best friends I've ever had in this lifetime, where I feel as though we've had other lifetimes together and we've been able to find each other again through social media, that was not available to me, 25 years ago when social media wasn't available. So I feel an incredible reverence and expansive connection with social media, and that I get to sow seeds in the platform, sow seeds of authenticity and light and truth and connection, that I won't contribute to their false light. I won't contribute to the manipulation. I will sow seeds of the change that I want to see in the world. So that's what becomes available when we give ourselves the opportunity to shift our perception on this actual platform, social media. And so let me just look at the time. And so the things that you can actually do, just looking at my notes, yes, and looking at some of my stories, not successful because I'm not showing. Oh, and Heidi says, some of my stories are I'm not successful because I'm not showing up as much as some of the others. The core story for me for a long time as well. Oh, the same story, Arak. Heidi, yes. Oh, that reminds me. So Heidi says some of my stories are that I'm not as successful because I'm not showing up as much as that other person. So then I invite a journey of journaling or conversation. So sometimes I journal through speaking. So I have a friend and we call it radical listening. And so sometimes my journaling, because I'm an auditory learner, is through speaking it out. And when I hear myself and I'm like, and then I can make notes from there. Sometimes journaling is too introspective for me. So either radical listening, where you're just venting, or you can write in journaling, is to explore that. So I'm not as successful because I'm not showing up as consistently. So if we look at the story that's showing up, the pattern that's showing up, and the trigger that's coming up when we open social media. So mine was similar to this. I'm not as successful because I'm not showing up as much as that person. Now, why am I asking yourself the whys? Why am I not showing up as much as that person? And keep asking yourself why, and why, and why, and why, and why, and why. And you can get to uncover either the fear or it's usually a fear, but a core belief around the stories. Just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper with the stories. So what I noticed was, my story was, I'm not as successful as that person because I'm not showing as much as that person. Why am I not showing up as much as that person? And then all my stories came out about that that person doesn't have a young family. So that person doesn't have a young family, so they have more time available, and they don't have, and just letting yourself uncover all of the stories associated with that story of why it is that you're not showing up. Now, another thing that I uncovered was that my why wasn't big enough. So as we grow, evolve, shift, ascend, our why can change and we can lose connection with that. And as soon as we lose connection with that why, we start to drift. And so the sensation of lots of excuses that we have internally that are very, very well justified, often they're very well justified. But one thing I know for sure is we either choose our excuses or results. So it's two choices. We choose excuses or results. There are always both sides. And so uncovering all of the stories and allowing yourself to really go there and letting yourself, and this is from Existential Kink. There's a beautiful book called Existential Kink, to really play in the kink of, I am a total victim here. I am loving that I have all of these powerful excuses as to why I can't fully show up. And then keep asking and asking and asking, and we get to the bottom of what that is, and what am I really afraid of. And another one that I was really afraid of, and it's all about being vulnerable and sharing the truths here, is that I won't be chosen. And so it initially showed up for me as fear of rejection, but it came down to not being chosen. So I don't compete because I might not win, and because I might not, the sensation of not being chosen and not feeling significant is painful and uncomfortable. So I'd take myself out initially, at the beginning, so that I didn't have to go through that sensation. And so to me, this journey of creating our soul-based business and expanding our light so that we can share it with the world and light the way for others is the most rewarding experience, because of how deeply we get to go in knowing ourselves fully, calling all of that back, and then expanding from that place. And so if you dare, I have some beautiful offerings at all different levels, of starting from like 88 Australian dollars and going upwards from there. I have like monthly memberships, and I have a 4-week incubator coming up, which starts in 25th of September. And these are invitations to know yourself more deeply. These are invitations into community and into this experience of looking more deeply at these patterns, so that you can feel more like, call yourself back, feel more whole, and show up in more of your radiance and more of your magnetism, and allow those distortions and that static that's between you and your desired beautiful clients that are here to receive from you, and clearing that static so that there's a clear line of energetic communication between you and your community. And in that experience, there is an enormous mystery that happens when you come into these places, because this is not a linear experience. The learning experiences of our ascension and evolution of our soul is not a linear experience. It is a mystery, and one of the biggest challenges that I've had is in my journey of growing my business and my marketing is how to articulate that particular piece. And in human design, I'm a projector, and my thing is to respond. And so what I've noticed is I've created a whole way of, I call it my sacred feminine business blueprint. And the template that I use is that I have found a way that, in alignment with my energy type and all the things, my blueprint, and created a template for my business based on all of that. And it has been learning from all different mentors and all different frameworks and created my own. And I feel like that's where thriving comes in business and in life, is when we find our own, and comparison kind of falls away, because there is, just like a fingerprint, there is no one exactly like you. And the elements and all of the aspects of you and your imprint can't be replicated. And so comparison just falls away. So I would love to hear in the chat box, not the chat box, in the comments, what really landed for you in this transmission. Even if you've watched the replay, let me know what has landed. And while you're doing that, I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do, because I said comparison-itis on social media and what to do about it. So one is to unfollow low vibe stuff. So unfollow people and groups that are in the lower realms of existence, the ones who are triggering the survival instinct in you, the ones who are, or are triggering you in a big way, even if their intention is not to, or they aren't necessarily in the lower realms, but it is triggering you in a big way, because you are investing your life force in that experience. And so choosing where it goes wisely is the invitation here. So unfollow, so you don't have to unfriend, you can unfollow anyone who is acting from the lower realms of existence. Now, I have done this many, many times, where I assess what it is, like, is the trigger that, the way they're showing up, or that's something for me to look at, or is it that the very things that they're saying and doing are not in alignment with my values, my very core values. So unfollow, or I have unfriended ones that I feel very clear about. Number 2 is write a letter to, and we do this, we write the letter, and you don't give it to the person, you just write it, and you create a sacred space, and write it and have a quantum experience with it. So write a letter, and I'm going to put the template for the letter underneath the video in Facebook, in the group. And write a letter using the person's name that's really, really creating some, tingles in your body about showing up on social media. And we write the letter to them, celebrating them for what it is that they're creating, and showing us what is actually possible, and showing us more of who we truly are. And so that letter is, you can do it as many times to as many people, or to the one person, and you can as many times until you feel more at peace with what you're writing. And then you can create a ritual around it. So you can burn it, or put it in water, and create a ritual to really support you to alchemize what it is that's there for you. And then the third thing is, get super clear on your mission and your purpose. Now, remember, I expressed that your purpose and your why and your mission can shift as you ascend and evolve and grow, because we are constantly shifting into new timelines and new identities and having new experiences, especially if you're devoted to this work, like I know you all are in this space. And so if you it takes re-envisioning time from time to time. So I had one that I was so devoted to 5 years ago. I wrote it out, I had it on my wall, and after about 2 years, I felt myself I felt a bit lost, and I was in the drift, and I was like, what is going on? And I feel like I was born for this mission and this why and this knowing, and then I felt really disconnected from it. And what I learned was that it shifts as I shift. It grows as I grow. And so having the opportunity to if you feel yourself in the drift, sit there and write, put on some beautiful music and create, and have a candle burning and create a sacred space, and invite yourself into going into what really matters and why am I doing this. And I've done this recently, and I was moved to my core, and I've reconnected with what that truly is. And so being very, very clear on your mission and purpose, because it anchors you into the experience of knowing and trust. And so when you have that deep knowing and trust, the comparison piece just falls away, because I know why I'm here. I know what I'm here to do, and I am an obedient soul that just follows the guidance. And so I don't need to be distracted by what is going on around me. That is just the distractions of this human experience. And I reconnect with my soul and my channel, my soul team, and source, and I know what my next steps are. And so I'll have a quick look at what their comments are, and then I'm going to jump off. That piece of connection of my why is what has landed. Amazing. Something that has landed for me was to unfollow triggering content. Did that a couple of years ago, and it was a game changer. Another thing is that I need to be in community with other women who aligned with your values and goals in the process of meeting and gathering members of my tribe. Yes. And that is something that I invite myself. I've been doing this for 5 years. I never felt so lost or alone 5 years ago, and in my life. I was 37, and that was okay, so what are we doing here? And over those last 5 years, I have invited myself back into that curiosity and that questioning over and over again, as I start to collect people that are not in alignment with my values or what it is that I'm here to create in the world, and then I recalibrate. I was like, that's right, this isn't feeling good for me. This is old people pleaser Skye, or this is an older version of me that's wanting to rescue this person, or whatever is coming up for me. Then recalibrate and disengage again, unfollowing and clearing the slate to be in the deepest alignment with our soul and soul values, and being able to share our light with the planet. So I will leave that there. Thank you so much for showing up and being here. Let me know in the underneath the video what your takeaways were if you've watched the replay, and I will pop that letter template. Actually, I might pop it in the top, in the written piece above the video in the group, so you'll be able to use that template. I've got a call now, and I'll do it afterwards. Have a beautiful day, evening, night, wherever you are in the world, and I'll speak with you soon.